Welcome to episode 62 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. We chat about his new app, Cyberdust. We talk about how the NBA has changed in his 14 years, his experiences on Shark Tank, and how to break into the sports business.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals.
And now, here's your host, who is a sports geek like Mark Cuban. He just has a few more dollars, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to the Sports Geek podcast. If you're listening for the very first time, welcome to the podcast. As I said, my name's Sean Callanan. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Callanan. Please send me a tweet if you're listening for the first time. For those of you who have listened for the previous 61 episodes, thank you very much for listening again. You can get Sports Geek podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and now Audio Boom. So please let me know what channels you're using or listening to the Sports Geek podcast. This week, I get to catch up with Mark Cuban, as he's introduced on ABC Shark Tank, the outspoken billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Was chatting with Mark on his new app, Cyberdust, and very thankful that he agreed to come on the show and have a chat. Really, what I am really thankful for is my friends at ABC Grandstand, Al Crombie and Joe Sullivan, who allowed me to use Francis Leach's studio to do the interview to make sure everything went well. And we're going to replay some of this on ABC Grandstand. I'm on there early mornings, Saturdays on ABC Grandstand. For those of you who don't know what I do, yes, I podcast and talk with sports and media, sports digital, sports marketing executives around the world on the podcast each week. But when I'm not podcasting, I'm actually doing work with sports teams and leagues around Australia and around the world. So if you work in the sports space and you're looking to engage your fans, please give me a call or send me a tweet or send me a message on Cyberdust, Sean Callanan on Cyberdust, and I'll respond to those. But otherwise, you can use that old-fashioned thing called email. Sean at sportsgeekhq.com will land in my inbox. Before we get into the interview with Mark, just a big congratulations for the South Sydney Rabbitohs making it into the NRL Grand Final. If you're following along at home, NRLGF will be the hashtag on Sunday night Australian time when the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who are a Sports Geek client, take on the Canterbury Bulldogs to see who can win the title. 43 years it's been since the Rabbitohs won the premiership, so I'll be there on Sunday. Please let me know if you're going to be at the game at ANZ Stadium. Looking forward to going to my first NRL Grand Final, and hopefully the Rabbitohs will win in that one. Fingers crossed. And best of luck to all the team behind the Rabbitohs, hardworking team, Jeremy Monahan, Chris, Tom, and all the guys behind the scenes bringing you all that action. It's been a hectic week for them so far, and I really hope that those guys really reap the rewards and really enjoy the day. One of the things that's really vital when you're in a big game like that is to take the time to realize you're in the big game. Take the time to smell the roses, so to speak. Just take a breath every now and again, because there's so much activity, and realize and really benefit for one of the big reasons you work in sports. I do have a chat with Mark Cuban about breaking into the sports business. I hope you really like his advice. I completely agree with it. Here is my chat with Dallas Mavericks owner and Shark, Mark Cuban. Very happy to welcome Dallas Mavericks owner, and you will see him on Shark Tank on ABC, Mark Cuban. Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, now I'll open up where we were chatting. We were recently chatting on Cyberdust. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Cyberdust and where it came from?
Yeah, I mean, I'd had a little battle with the U.S. government where they were taking my messages and kind of repurposing them for their own use. You know, I could say the sky was blue, and they would say, no, you're lying, and what you really meant was the sky was green. And it was just crazy. And so I created an app called Cyberdust, Cyberdust, 2 words, that basically is very simple. when you send a message from one user on CyberDust to another user, after you're done reading the message, it deletes into Never Never Land, never to be retrieved again. And basically what it allows you to do is just protect your digital footprint. And we released it a few months ago, and it's just exploded worldwide. People are using it everywhere.
And so the key thing with CyberDust is different to other apps where people think that it's private, like Snapchat and WhatsApp, is that you're really key on the privacy.
WhatsApp doesn't even pretend to be private. I mean, they let you delete things, but it's not private at all. And Snapchat, they erase things, but as anybody who uses it a lot knows, you can download apps that let you recover any text or any picture on Snapchat at all. So it certainly doesn't protect you at all. And CyberDust, really what we tried to accomplish, we wanted to make CyberDust really easy to use, just like a regular text message. And if you were to compare it to Snapchat, I'd say that Snapchat is probably crayons on pictures for middle school kids, and CyberDust is keyboards for text for adults. Let you have a real conversation that you can be open and honest about, knowing that the whole conversation is just going to disappear forever.
And have you
seen a face-to-face conversation?
Yeah, definitely. Have you seen a big jump? We've seen the whole iCloud hacking thing, and celebrities getting busted for sending photos around. Whereas with CyberDust, you're not worried about someone grabbing your phone or hacking your account.
I can't tell you who, but some of the biggest names in Hollywood and all of athletics globally, they figured it out that by using CyberDust, they can really protect themselves. Because the reality, particularly if you're high profile, when you send somebody a text, they're going to keep that text. And for everybody, when you send a text, the minute you hit send, you no longer own that text, but you're still responsible for it. So whoever you message with via regular texting, they can take that text and send it anywhere around the world, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, post it anywhere on the web, and you have no control over it. With CyberDust, you have control because after they've read that message, it's going to be gone forever.
Yeah, I can only tell you when I've done training sessions with athletes and they're saying, yes, we're using WhatsApp as a group messaging and that kind of thing. And then I say, what if someone accidentally gets someone's phone and they've got access to everything, and you can just see the blood rush from their faces knowing that all of those messages are out there. Whereas with CyberDust, it's just you send it, it's gone, and
Yeah, you get a lot of boys talking stuff on a group message, whether it's GroupMe or WhatsApp. They're going to talk a lot of crap, and that if it gets out there, it's not going to look good. Now, CyberDust doesn't have group messaging yet, but it should be out in about 2 weeks.
Oh, that's terrific. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. You bring out an app like CyberDust, and you really brought it for your use case, for what you wanted. But what have you seen that the users grab it and use it for that you didn't know was going to happen?
What's really cool is like groups and organizations are using it to send updates, at colleges and universities, fraternities and organizations are sending updates, where are parties, where are our friends going to be, knowing that, they want it to disappear once everybody knows what's going on. At the Dallas Mavericks, we used it. We have an account called Let's Go Mavs, and we send pictures and updates to all of our fans. And it's cool because, the fans get the updates, they know what's going on, and then it disappears so it doesn't eat up all the space on their hard drives, on their phones or their laptops or whatever it may be. And so it's really become a great way to send from celebrities or experts or just calendars, just send updates to people who get the updates and then move on.
And the thing is that it's good from the athlete point of view is they don't have to deal with all the peanuts that are on Twitter and the trolls coming back at them.
Oh, yeah.
They can do that one-to-one message straight to their fans.
Right, because I have 100,000 followers under Blog Maverick on CyberDust, and when I send something on Twitter, I know I'm going to get beat up by all the trolls who are going to say something nasty and try to be cute and it's not because I care what they say, but they know everybody else who follows me is going to be able to see it. And so with CyberDust, when I blast something out to 100,000 people using the blast feature, I know that any interaction between me and the people who receive it is private. There are no trolls. There's nobody else messing with you. There's nobody, when you reply back to me and send me a message, I'm the only one who's going to see it. And we can have an open, honest conversation knowing that the idiots out there aren't going to have any say in the matter.
And so that is the beauty. I mean, that was the early Twitter. That was the beauty of people getting the replies. But there does seem to be, there's so much volume there that you can't have that conversation. That's what you're trying to offer with CyberDust from an athlete point of view.
That's exactly right. So, an athlete can speak to their fans and they don't have to worry about somebody from some other team or country or group coming in and trying to create a hassle, or somebody who's drunk on their on Twitter. Everybody's a hero because you can be anonymous, and so people will say things just to be mean, and that doesn't happen on CyberDust. So it's a lot more effective communications with your fans.
And so the thing with startups, it's all about getting the users and getting the growth. Because CyberDust doesn't have a reblog or a repurpose function. How do you get that viral component? How do you really make that word of mouth blow up for CyberDust?
Well, we will have a reblast is what we'll call it, and hopefully it's coming in the next couple of weeks. Because you're right. If I send a blast and somebody else really likes it, I like to send out a lot of motivational quotes. And I get asked all the time, can I forward this to my friends? And right now you cannot forward in CyberDust because we want to protect the privacy. But we'll make it an option so that the person who's sending the blast can allow it to be forwarded. But in terms of other growth, because you need CyberDust on both sides, when a Dallas Mavericks fan wants to get all the information and updates and chances to win free tickets, you're going to have to download CyberDust and follow us at Let's Go Mavs. If you want to be able to interact with me personally while you're watching Shark Tank, you're going to have to download CyberDust and follow me at Blog Maverick. And so there's a lot of ways that we've become viral, because if you want to get access to people, or you want to protect your privacy, or you want to be able to develop a following using Blast, then you have to have CyberDust. And that, we're not quite to 1 million yet, but we're closing in real fast.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it develops. One other product I want to talk to you about, because you're really in this privacy space, is Expire, and where that fits in how you see sort of protecting your digital footprint.
Well, I'm glad you asked. One thing, over the last 10 years, we started texting, then we got Facebook, then we got Twitter, then we got Tumblr. We all put things out there over and over again, and over time you kind of forget what you've written before. And it's almost like going back and looking at old pictures of yourself where you thought you were in fashion, and then 5 years, 10 years later, you look like an idiot because of your hairstyle and your clothes. It's the same with social media, where we'll say something, maybe in response to a friend, maybe in response to something we saw on television, maybe at a movie, and it made sense when we say it, but a year later, 2 years later, it only makes it look really silly that you wrote it and said it online. And so we created a product called Expire, Xpire, and right now it's only on iPhone or on iOS, the Apple Store, but it'll be on Android hopefully soon. And what it allows you to do is register for Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook right now, and for your tweets, you can set an expiration time. So you can say, you know what, I'm going to comment about, my friends and I hanging out tonight, but it's not going to make any sense a week later, so I want it to automatically disappear in a week, and it will. You can also import all your tweets and then go back through all your old ones using search terms. So if your girlfriend's name was Susie that you broke up with a year ago, you put in Susie, and you can find all those old tweets or Facebook posts, and then just delete them all and take her off your social media profile. And, it also makes a difference for your job, because now every employer is asking what your Facebook and Instagram and Twitter IDs are and Tumblr IDs are, and they're going to go look to see what you talk about and what you say. And if you've got things going back, 6 months, a year, that may not look so good because you were out one night hanging out with your boys and were saying stupid stuff, Expire allows you to go back and delete all that stuff and really clean up your digital footprint to make it as small as possible. I think in this day and age, people have really got to be aware that anything you post online in social media, if somebody can find a way to use it against you, they will. Or someone sees something in it, even if you didn't mean it, and that could keep you from getting into a school or keep you from getting a job or cause you to lose your job. We all hear about all these stories that happen to other people, but it's going to start happening to more and more people if you're not careful, and that's why we created Expire.
The thing is, I've done the same with both training with my athletes and also my teenage kids to say, anything that you put out there, will be used against you in the court of public opinion or even law in some cases. So you've got to be really aware. You've got an algorithm there where once you do sign up for Expire, you can, check your social score and see how risky you've been.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes people think that, I didn't say anything bad or I didn't do anything bad, so what do I have to worry about? But, what we've done is we've created an algorithm that goes through all your posts and says, look, you might want to reconsider because it might not have sounded too bad to you, but it could sound really bad to somebody else. And so it creates your social media score and tells you that, here are your posts that you need to keep an eye on and you might want to consider deleting.
Well, I was very happy. I checked my score. I got an A+, so I.
There you go.
I thank my Auntie Kath. My Auntie Kath is 95 and she's a nun, and so my rule is I don't want to put any tweets out that I have to explain to Auntie Kath, and it's held me in good stead.
Exactly right.
But it's a really great tool, just from like you said, from an education point of view, just running that algorithm, because what you think is offensive, from a different generation, if you're in the younger generation, will be offensive to other people. So even just running the algorithm to go, well, maybe I do need to rethink those tweets, whether it's don't tweet after 11 o'clock.
Things change, too. Things change. What we said 3 years ago, 5 years ago might have been hip and cool if you're 21 years old, and then 5 years later you're working at a job and it sounds really stupid, and your boss looks at it and you don't get that promotion, or you lose your job to somebody else, or somebody else shows it and says, look, who knows what this person was thinking. So there's just no upside to having all that information about you out there. I say to people all the time that I can look at your Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter accounts and know more about you than your family does, because people just tend to ramble on and post online and not give consideration, and it can backfire on them.
Well, I mean, there was a study just recently that Facebook knows when your relationship's going to end just by the posts that you're doing. So, just the analysis of all that data that's there is both fascinating as a marketer, but, also creepy as a user.
Oh, it's creepy as hell what Facebook can do. And look, Facebook's no different than Google or any of the other big companies that have so much of our data. They want to use it to know more about you. They want to be able to sell to you. They want to, try to anticipate what you're going to be interested in next, what movies you'll see, what you don't like. And so everything you put out there is just an invitation for somebody to try to learn more about you. And that's not always bad, but it's something you at least have to be aware of.
And again, the same thing with Expire. It's only still new, but you're seeing people, potentially use it sort of in a promotional way. Say, I'm going to put out a tweet. It's going to be good for 6 hours. It's going to be a specific ticket link just for the Mavs.
Yeah, with links to buy. Yeah, when this expires, this deal is off, or this discount is gone. Yeah, we're already experimenting with some of that stuff, and so hopefully you'll see a lot more of that from us in Australia too.
Terrific. Want to talk about the NBA landscape, you being an owner of the Mavs since 2000, the 12th longest tenured owner, because there's been so much change. I want to ask you if there's a bit of a change at the owners' table with so many media and tech-savvy owners coming on board in the last couple of years with Vivek Ranadive, Ted Leosis, Peter Gruber from a movies point of view. Do you think that's changing the way the NBA looks at the whole digital and TV rights type of thing?
No question about it. You're exactly right. Things have changed a lot. The old school owners who hated me when I got in have, sold their teams or died, unfortunately, or whatever happened. And the new guys come in and just a whole lot smarter. They understand technology, they understand media, and they're able to bring that knowledge, and they also use it on the court. Teams are using analytics now, and they're just a lot smarter, and you have to be a lot smarter to compete.
I mean, and then on the digital rights, we heard Adam Silver talking about potentially having games early Saturday mornings for prime time in China. Do you think China and India and the growth of the NBA in that space is really going to be a really key part of the next deals that the NBA does?
I hope not. I don't want to see us playing early morning basketball games. I'd rather just see us go overseas and just play them there. But yeah, it's possible. It's a business, it's a sport, it's a game, but it's also a business, and we always have to be aware of the business issues and the opportunities, and Adam's going to be great at trying to figure those out. But hey, if it comes down to a vote and they ask if we should be playing games at 10 in the morning on Saturday, so they're, at night for Australia and China, I'm going to be like, no.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the thing. You've also got to keep your tribe happy. You want people in Dallas, like they're your key customers. I mean, it's great for the TV deal, but your key customers are in Dallas.
And plus, it's just such an impact on the guys' bodies. Imagine an Australian rules player, having to get up all of a sudden and play a game at 9 a.m. And, it's just hard on you physically because your body's not adjusted to it, and it won't adjust that quickly. And so I just think physically we won't be able to provide the best version of our game. So, I mean, I just don't like the idea right now.
You were talking about before about the growth of tech in sports and the Moneyball side of things, made famous by Billy Beane and made into a movie and all that thing. But the whole analytics industry in the NBA has grown. They've got the SportView tracking technology in all the stadiums now. I'd love to be talking about Dirk Nowitzki's, pure shooting percentage and that kind of thing. But I wanted to talk to you about, I guess, I see the other Moneyball, the business side of it, and understanding the fans and the CRM and that, obtaining that holy grail of 360-degree view of the customer that you can now get with all these touch points. What's your take on that, and what are the kind of things you're looking to do at the Mavs?
Well, there's two things. One, how do you make the customer happy in terms of delivering product, food, merchandise, service, and you got to do whatever it takes to anticipate what they're going to want. All the things I said to be careful of on Get Expire. But once they walk into the arena, I want them to have the best experience possible. But on the flip side, when the game is being played, I don't want a lot of technology being used. If someone's looking down at their phone, that means I failed in terms of the product, in terms of the entertainment that I'm offering. Even between quarters, at halftimes, timeouts, breaks, I want to be offering some sort of entertainment so that you feel like you're getting your money's worth. You walked into a stadium or an arena and you can just feel the energy of a game. And that's what makes going to a Mavs game in Dallas unique. You walk in and you feel the energy. You feel the excitement from people. And if you give them too much technology during the part of time where the game's being played, you diminish that electricity. And that's the last thing I want to do, because that's what makes our product different. But, when it comes to the functional things, delivering sodas, hot dogs, food, whatever it may be, merchandise, that's where you want technology to really take over and simplify things for your fans.
Yeah, you definitely want to enhance the experience and not just be tied up in, fan engagement, which is a really big buzz term, and thinking that has to be all about technology.
Because people think just because people have phones and they want to use it, that they will use it for everything, and that's just not the case. People don't look at it that way. I mean, we try to find so many different ways and so many different reasons for us and our kids and, for however old we are, to put down our phones. You go places so you can get away from just staring at your phone. And we want, a Mavs game to be getting away from all of it, as opposed to just one more place to use your phone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to have that event where I don't want to pull my phone out because I'm so into the game. You're happy the people.
Shoot, I haven't checked my phone in an hour. I forgot.
The other part of, I guess, that equation is, you were one of the first stadiums with all the technology and wired it all up. Is the rise of the iBeacons and trying to find the right mix of how you use those in the stadium without becoming, the new pocket spam. What's your take of that space?
It's a great question, because on the surface, the iBeacons and all the tracking manners just make so much sense. Hey, you're walking by the merchandise store, so let's ping you on your phone and tell you we've got a discount on Mavs gear. But at the same time, to your point, you've got to be careful of spam, because we're not the only ones thinking about that. And so everywhere you go, you're getting pinged with an iBeacon, you're just going to get annoyed and turn the whole thing off. And so I personally think iBeacon's going to have challenges. I mean, it's been out there a couple years now, and you haven't seen anybody really just use it in a way that everybody says, I love it, and I'm glad they did it. And so I think we've got to find other ways to ping or bink or whatever you want to call it, boing the customer, and let them know that we've got something for them, because you hit the nail on the head that it's so easy to spam that I think it actually becomes more of a negative than a positive.
Yeah, I think part of it is, I was talking to the guys at Sporting Innovations at SEAT in Miami earlier this year, and part of it is tying it into the loyalty and tying it into that data component. So if I'm an all-in, I'm a Dirk Nowitzki fan and I've turned up to 10 games, then the idea is that's when you boink me or ping me. I don't know if we've got these terms right, Mark.
Yeah, the hard part is, that's not the hard part. The tracking the loyalty really isn't all that difficult. It's just, you don't want to be part of the mess, right? It's like one more billboard. If you're driving down the street, by where I live, you're going to see 30 billboards. And it gets to the point where there's so many billboards, you don't pay attention to 90% of them. And I think that's the risk. And so while I want to come up with a loyalty program that rewards people and notifies them when they're close by, I don't know that iBeacons iBeacon is going to be the way to do it. So I haven't solved that one, but that's certainly, if you have any good ideas, I'm wide open.
Well, I did want to ask you about loyalty because there really is a really strong player where we see the 49ers launch a big rewards program. A lot of the NFL teams are doing it where they're rewarding both the social engagement, which is great, but there's not much money in that for tweeting and posting, but then tying it into what they're spending and with turning up with tickets and buying at concessions and buying with merchandise. Like that's an old model that been working in the airline industry and retail and Starbucks. How do you think sports is going to tackle that one and sort of help solve that equation?
I don't think we are.
Yep.
I don't think, we're not all that creative for the most part with sports. It's something I look at and try to say, how can I do it differently and what can I do differently? And, what is it? If I had to start from scratch, what's the best way? But I think everybody looks at the phone as such a predominant device that I don't know. I mean, you've got to do the basic loyalty things, and we do that with the Mavs. I mean, we track how many times you're coming, and we'll send you a text, or if you want us to, or we'll send you an email if you want us to. We'll send you an alert on your phone if you want us to. We'll send you a CyberDust message if you want us to. I think the direction we're going is tell us how you want us to communicate with you, and we'll figure out the best way to do it in that manner. So, rather than saying this is our way, take it or leave it, I think we're asking the customer more and doing it in the way they want it.
And there is really no one way. I mean, talking to Oscar Ugaz, who was at Real Madrid when they launched their first loyalty program, the Madrista program, they charge people for it. They said, you want to be part of it, it's €20 a year. And, that is something that no one would even consider doing, both over here in Australia. In the US, it's like, no, everyone's expecting this stuff for free, but you set up that program, you say it's $20 to be in, and you're going to get all these benefits and access to these simple things, but it starts them on that escalator to become
It also depends on how big your fan base is too. I mean, Real Madrid he's global, right?
Yeah.
The Mavs have a global fan base, but not near their size. But I hope to get there someday, but we aren't there yet. But you're right. I mean, what we could charge for a year ago or 10 years ago even, you can't charge for today.
But the other thing from a whole data point of view is that email, it's sort of the ugly stepsister of digital these days. Everyone's trying to get out there and sell via Twitter. We see Facebook doing a deal with Stripe with the buy now button and Twitter doing a buy now button. Do you see that space developing as far as you being able to sell straight away?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no question. There's a bunch of one-line commerce companies coming where it's just one line of code and you just stick it anywhere, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it's a Tumblr post, whatever you have, and it's just click to buy. And, you could do it before by just, sending someone to a web page, but now you could just simplify it even further. And so, I don't see how that slows down at all.
I mean, especially from a sports point of view, that whole impulse buy, Dirk.
We want to take their money wherever we can.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, and at that peak of when you're in that emotion of the game, if I can just hit that button at the end and there you go, I've got that Dirk Nowitzki T-shirt or whatever, that'll be one of the easiest way when everyone's been looking to monetize social media. I mean, I think it's a real much of a longer play, but this will be far easier where you will put out that post and you will see those results straight away.
Yep, you'll see us right there. Click to buy, click to buy, click to buy, hopefully where we already have your credit card. That's what makes Amazon so easy, right? Because they already have all your information that they're good at delivery. And so you click and it shows up on your doorstep, and that's the way we want it to be.
Had a really good discussion on a panel around at Seat a couple of months ago with guys at ESPN and NFL and Major League Baseball about trying to get your message to the fan, and the fan is a moving target. You're trying to get them on the couch, on the move when they're around, and then on the way to the stadium and in the stadium. Where do you try? It's very hard to get your message in there with the leagues putting their message in, ESPN and Fox are putting their message in. Where do you see the team's point of view in that space in trying to get access to your fan?
We're a lot more local. I mean, we want to try to get to them in Dallas and the whole North Texas area where most of our fans are, or at least the ones who are going to be most active in buying tickets and merchandise. And so we'll use local media. I mean, from our website to other websites to billboards to radio to television. We don't leave any stone unturned. Old school media, new media, you name it. If there's any angle, CyberDust, whatever angle I can try, I'm going to try it, because it's you're right, it's a moving target, and so, as long as fans keep on moving and new things coming out, what I try to do, I guess, to try to give us an edge is I try to look at all the new technologies and try to stay ahead of people there. And when the technologies are still new, they're usually a lot more forgiving and open to unique kinds of deals. And so I, hope, and then those types of things hopefully catch on quickly, and we're ahead of the pack. And that's typically how the Mavs have been able to do it. We were the first website for e-commerce in the NBA. We were the first mobile app in the NBA. We just try to do things a little bit ahead of the curve, and by doing that, we think we can catch the tip of the momentum from fans.
I did want to go back to you on that. Like myself, I was a coder and a geek before I was a sports geek. You used to get on the tools back at Micro Solutions and put together systems. So do you think that coding background has helped you as an entrepreneur, knowing where these tech trends are going and what they're trying to do?
No question. Yeah, I mean, knowing how to code and understanding technology and the logic behind it helps in everything. It helps in business because you kind of, understand how to start something and how to get it to a finishing point and how to define all the logic between. And that applies not just to writing software, but also to putting together a business plan, to executing on the business plan, to understanding things that are being pitched to you. And also, we're so technologically driven now so that when someone pitches an idea and they want to try to talk over your head from a tech perspective, they can't do it because, if you know how to code and you understand hardware, then you're going to be able to figure everything out. I always tell people, every day there's something brand new that comes out, and the person who developed it, they have an edge, but everybody else is tied with you in figuring it out. And if you just put in the time, you can figure it out as well as anybody but the developer. And I've always kind of used that approach to find, new places and new edges for our business. But yeah, if you can code, you're going to have an edge in business.
Yeah, and I definitely think, when I started Sports Geek, one of the things was to weed out those cowboys in the tech space that just go off, promise the world, and deliver less than that. I think the growing knowledge of technology and being able to spot those, cowboys out there is just making a better experience for you as a business owner.
If you're trying to start a company and you require technology and you don't understand technology, you are going to get taken advantage of. They're going to see you coming, and they're going to charge you more than they should, and you're going to have an issue. And if it doesn't work the first time, you're not going to have any idea how to fix it, and you're going to repeat the same mistakes. And so, having a tech background, having a partner with a tech background is enormously useful.
Yeah, I really liked the deal you did on the first episode of Shark Tank with the girls from Ruminate who are pushing to get technology and getting kids and girls specifically into engineering and building that kind of stuff. As I said, as a dad, always looking for positive role models. So I absolutely love that deal you did with the girls at Ruminate.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to push my kids into, or let them go into whatever they want to. But if I can push them to experience new things, at least so they can make up their own minds from a more educated basis, I'm going to do it. And, I'm a lucky guy. And so having Shark Tank and other things available to me, I'm going to take advantage of everything I can for my kids.
And on Shark Tank, I mean, how has the experience been for you, being a shark on Shark Tank?
It's cool. It's interesting because, when it's a lot of work, not so much filming the show. That we film the show in 20 days total. We get there in the morning, they just bring us deal after deal after deal, and the deals in real time can go anywhere from 30 minutes to 2.5 hours. Then they cut them down to 10 minutes. But doing the show itself, the filming is easy. The hard part is helping all the companies that you invest in. I think I'm past 40, 50 companies. I don't even know the number. And so I'm getting reports from all of them, emails from all of them, calls. And so that's what takes up all the time. So, it's a lot of work, but the reality is, the show's being seen globally, and it really tells people around the world that if you're willing to put in the effort and take time to learn, then, anybody can start a company in any country worldwide, whether it's the U.S., Australia, Japan, Paraguay, all the different, Argentina, that we're being seen everywhere now. And so it really feels good to know that we can have an impact.
I mean, what you just said then about, you see the glamour of the show, but all the hard work that's happening behind the scenes to make all of those companies success. That is the story of every small business. Like that, you've got to do all that work, and people see the micro segment of you having success and not realize all the slog that you're doing on 7 days a week to make that happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, I went 7 years without taking a vacation in my first company, and from the time you start to where you hopefully end up at the top, it's never a straight line. It goes up and down and zigs and zags and all around, and you just hope you end up where you wanted to end up. But it's scary, but that fear, at least for me, has always been a huge motivator.
Yeah, I did an episode. I've got another podcast called Beers, Blokes and Business, and we did a whole episode on facing that fear, and that's the adrenaline, that's the driver that gets an entrepreneur up and about.
Absolutely. I say to people all the time that business is the ultimate sport. Whatever adrenaline you feel when you're competing, whether you're playing basketball or rugby or Australian rules, whatever it may be, you get that rush, but that rush is while you're on the field. Maybe you get fired up during practice and, while you're training, but business is 24/7 by 365, and you don't even know who your competition is. You don't know who the other team is half the time, and they're always coming at you. And that fear of, at least for me, that 18-year-old kid in Australia, down there in Sydney who wants to kick my ass, that motivates me to work harder, be smarter, and try to stay ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend anyone who's listening to read your book on Amazon. It only costs you less than a cup of coffee, The How to Win a Sport of Business, because that's what it is. It is a sport that you're competing against everyone in the world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no limit, particularly with the Internet. Everybody who is in business in your area is your competition, and you need to realize that.
One thing I wanted to go back on, talking about Facebook early on when Facebook came out with the boost feature for posts, and you were just the same as me, shocked when it said, yes, you can boost a post with the Mavs. It's only cost you $1,500. Like I call the boost button and Facebook ads for dummies. It's pretty much a donate button to Mark Zuckerberg.
That's the truth.
But the thing is, have you had a second look at the other options from an advertising point of view in Facebook as far as targeting?
Options. Look, there's certain things you want to advertise on Facebook, even though. Well, first, let me take a step back. The whole idea of investing to create likes is a waste of money, and that's kind of unfortunate because Facebook misled us into thinking that if you build up a bunch of people to like your business page, then that's going to be a good thing for you and you're going to be able to benefit from it. And it's turned out to be the exact opposite. There's no benefit for all those likes other than to tell Facebook to sell to you. Now, as far as posting the ads and boosting it, yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, I guess, because Facebook does have some better information than some others, and while I hate giving them money, like you said, just putting it right into Mark Zuckerberg's pocket, if there's a very specific thing that I'm looking for, Mavs fans in Australia, probably the only way I'm going to find them is on Facebook.
Yeah.
Maybe Google, but probably on Facebook. So, you have to use them sometimes, but they're not at the top of my list by a long shot for the very reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, for mine, once you get into more advanced stuff, being able to target, a fan who's visited Mavs.com, and so you can go, well, I know that they're severe, they're really interested, so I can put that offer.
That's what they just announced today that they're going to be doing too, so it's going to get even more advanced.
Yeah, and the fact that they are tracking you everywhere, which goes back to our cyber dust discussion, but they are tracking you everywhere you go. As a marketer, everywhere. I love it. As a user, it's creepy as hell. So I'm really in that conundrum. But as long as I can still push out an ad or promote a podcast or promote a product or help teams sell more tickets, it's all about getting the cheeks in the seats. I love that as a phrase from a sports business point of view. You would be asked all the time, no doubt, Mark, how do I get into the sports business? I'm a big sports fan. I love sports. I want to work in sports business. What's your standard answer to that question?
Don't pick another business because it's so competitive. Particularly here in the States. I don't know how it is in Australia. So many people want to work for sports teams that they're willing to work for free.
Yep.
I'll just get my foot in the door. I'll work for free. And because of that, salaries aren't real great, and it's really hard to get a job. And more often than not, it depends on who you know. I would say that, if you want to work in sports, then focus on the things that are most important to us right now. which is not marketing, but it's analytics, it's biology, it's, having a medical degree is going to give you a better chance of getting a job in the sports field than having a sports marketing degree.
Yeah, definitely that whole analytics side, again, both on the court and on the field side point of view, and that analytics side of understanding the data around sports is
Oh, yeah. There's
massive.
an Australian company I invested in called Catapult.
Yep.
That, just tracks your health data and tracks your performance and your workout and your heart measurements and knowing how to use that product and being an expert in that product will get your foot in any door. Knowing how to, think you know how to sell seats, if you're a salesperson, that's a good foot in the door, but as a marketing person, that gets you nowhere.
Yep. I do like a phrase a mate of mine, Ted Johnson from the Timberwolves, said, if you're going to go into sports, don't be a jock sniffer. Don't be there and have the jaw, hit the ground when Dirk Nowitzki walks by.
Yeah, you can't. You've got to be ready to work, and you've got to understand what the goals are. You've got to be ready to put the cheeks in the seats and like you said, and get after it. It is not an easy job at all because there's so much competition for that spot.
Yeah, and the key thing is you're in the sports business. It's the business side you have to focus on. The sport is the gravy. It's the fun stuff. You do get to celebrate the wins and those kind of thing. But in the end, you're part of a business and you've got to keep delivering on that space.
Yeah, and if you don't remember that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things around Shark Tank, what are the advice you've got for people looking to pitch? Because again, you would have people pitching you all the time. What makes a good pitch from a Shark Tank point of view?
A good pitch, you've got to know your industry. You've got to know why your company fits in the industry and why it'll do well. You've got to tell me, how big the upside will be. It can't just be, okay, we'll sell $1 million worth. That's good for you, but as an investor, that's not going to work. And you've got to tell me how you're going to do the work and get it done. There's it varies from company type to company type, but the reality is that, are you smart? Are you willing to work? Is it an opportunity that can be big and big enough to make it worth an investment? And are you the person to get it done?
I mean, how many of your deals, like the girls from Ruminate, are you investing in the person because of the way that they're wired?
It really depends. It just really depends. I'd say 90% it's the combination, 10% it's the person, and it's never just the product. Because I've learned too many times that, if the person running the company is an idiot, it doesn't matter if you're selling gold for a penny, it's not going to sell.
Yep. With the Mavs, recently you launched a crowd-sourced jersey, the new Skyline jersey. You can see it at Mavs.com. How did that experience go, pushing it out to the fans to ask them to design?
Yeah, it was fun because, I like the designers and people we worked with in the past. But my thought was that, out of the tens of thousands of people who would at least consider creating a design, one of them would have to be at least as good, if not better, than what we could do, and that's what turned out. And so the guy's name's Jeff Case, and he was one of thousands that contributed, but he really stood out. Turns out he was a designer, a professional designer, and he got himself $1,000 and a couple of season tickets to the Mavs for his work, and he did a great job, and I think it looks great.
I mean, it's a great way to engage your fan base and get that backwards and forwards. The Portland Trailblazers recently crowdsourced the design of the new floor at the Motor Center, and they got over 18,000 different variations of the combinations.
Right? Yeah, because during the off season, you're looking for ways, like you said, to engage the fan, and this is just one simple way to get people thinking Mavericks. And we want as many ways as we possibly can during the off season to get you thinking, okay, when does basketball start? When do the Mavs start? When let's think about the Mavs. And
that's right. Media Day was today. Season's starting to come upon us. I love Coach Carlisle's quote. You're either first or you're tied for last with everybody else.
He stole that one from me.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Mavs this season?
I don't make any predictions. I mean, I like our guys. I like the team we put together, but I always do, And so, we've got a good group of guys. Now we just got to stay healthy and produce. The Western Conference of the NBA is going to be super tough. There's no easy teams, and we'll see what happens. But, I always get nervous. I always get excited, and I always hope for the best, but I never make predictions.
And so I don't expect you to make predictions because you do. You want to go out there and win. From a fan experience point of view, what will Mavs fans expect this year? Is there anything new from a fan engagement point of view?
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly, but we've got a whole series of giveaways that we're doing that are going to be different. We've got some things for the television broadcast that hopefully we'll have done by the second week after the season starts. That'll make a broadcast completely different. So we're trying to keep on pushing the envelope and staying ahead, and because it's important. Like you and I have discussed, it's not easy to do, but it's important to do because you don't want your customers, your fans, ever feel like they're being taken for granted.
And have you been sort of following the trends? I come from Melbourne, which is very much focused on membership as opposed to a season ticket holder. Seeing some of that being taken hold in the US with the Kansas City Chiefs starting to call their fans members. Is that something that you're looking to do with the Mavs to sort of make them feel like they're more inside the inner circle, so to speak?
Yeah, we call them. Well, we say you're part of the Mavs family.
Yeah,
I don't know. Calling them members, I just makes me feel like you're going to ask them for more dues.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a good idea. I just don't know if I. Sometimes some ideas like that take me a little while to warm up to. Where I'll say, it's not a no, but let me think about it and let me bounce it off some people first.
So
I can see why you would do it.
Yep.
I just don't know for sure that I would do it.
So it's very much a cultural thing over here. I'm a Collingwood member. My son's a Collingwood member, and it sort of becomes something that starts being an emotional decision, less than a financial decision.
Yeah, it's so different over there. With soccer, with Australian rules football. It's got such a long tradition attached to that part of the country that it's you against every other part of the country and or other areas, and we're not quite there yet here, but that's something I hope we get to at some point.
So do you look at teams like Arsenal and Real Madrid and how they have that huge tribal following, and is that something you're aspiring to from a Mavs point of view?
Absolutely. We want people to be as rabid about the Mavs as they are about their football teams.
I mean, and that's the thing. You want them naming their kids Maverick. You want, baby rooms.
We get a lot of that. We get a lot of that, but we want more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my son did not get a choice on who he got to barrack for, so you want to continue that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for taking the time.
I really enjoyed it.
People can find you all over the internet. You're not that hard to find. Watch Shark Tank on Fridays on ABC in the States.
Yep, and if you have any questions, on Friday nights on ABC in the States, and you can see it different spots online after that. And if anybody has any questions, download Cyberdust. We'll add you on Blog Match, and I'll do my best to get you an answer.
And Shark Tank Australia is going to be opening soon in Australia. So for everyone who's listening in Australia, we'll be able to see Shark Tank. Maybe we'll have to get you down to Australia sometime.
I love it. I'll tell you what, I love it. When I was on Dancing with the Stars, my partner, Kim Johnson, was from Sydney, I believe.
Yes, she was.
She's down there now on Dancing with the Stars as a judge now. So she's been trying to get me to come down.
Well, if not down to Australia, we'll have to try to get you to SEAT Conference next year, which is Sports Entertainment Alliance and Technology. It's at San Francisco next year, so we're going to have all the big tech players in there. I'll send you the details. I'd love to continue this chat at SEAT next year in San Francisco.
Yeah, I hope so. It should be fun. Definitely.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Mark Cuban. And please sign up for Sports Geek News. You will join the likes of sports business executives like Mark Cuban who are on the mailing list to get the latest on sports digital, sports marketing, sports social media articles from around the world that you actually help curate everything that you click and retweet and engage with via my Twitter account, Sean Callanan or Sports Geek. That's how we decide what goes into that newsletter. And as a bonus, you get a free ebook from my presentation at SEAT Conference in Miami. Don't forget, keep an eye out for SEAT 2015 now on sale, sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT 2015 to check it out. That clock tells me to wind up this episode. You can find the show notes at sportsgeekhq.com/62. And this week's Sounds of the Game comes back from my time 2010 at a Dallas Mavs game. So you can definitely hear what Mark was saying before about creating that raucous atmosphere where you actually don't want to pull out your phone. You want to be watching the drummers. You want to be watching the dancers and really have that full-on fan experience. Thank you again. If you're a first-time listener to the Sports Geek podcast, please go back to our archive. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. You can see over 80, I think we're up to now 90 guests. I'm getting close to guest 100. But had guests from Arsenal with Richard Clark. Oscar Ugaz talks about Real Madrid. I've got that conversation that I spoke about on the chat with Mark at Seat, which is episode 55. Plenty of conversation with people in sports, both in the US, in Australia, and in the UK. And also check out Beers, Blokes and Business. I mentioned a couple of those episodes in the interview with Mark. One specifically passion versus effort, and then another one on fear. So that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Sports Geek podcast. Thank you very much for listening. As I said earlier, please, if you've listened to the podcast, send me a tweet. Tell me that you have at Sean Callanan, and also please send me a message on Cyberdust. So add me on Cyberdust, the same handle, Sean Callanan. I will be hosting a Facebook Q&A on my Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/sportsgeek for some follow-up stuff around this interview. So please like us on there. And that's it. That's enough of the plugs. As I said, thank you again for all the response I've had so far for the interview. Hope you really enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please share it with your networks. So until next week, and I hope you will be back for episode 63. Got some really great guests lined up. My name is Sean Callanan from sportsgeekhq.com. Stay tuned after the credits for a bonus Sounds of the Game from the AFL Grand Final. Thanks, Martin, for sharing this. This is what it sounded like at the MCG after the Hawthorn Football Club won the 2014 AFL Grand Final. Cheers.
Check out which teams work with SportsGeek at sportsgeekhq.com/clients. Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP.
Send in your sounds of the game. Email Sean at sportsgeekhq.com.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.
Spain are kicking the last goal.